Welcome back to another episode of the Nancy Levin Show. I am really delighted to have my guest, Darryll Stinson, here with us. Darryll has become a dear friend, colleague, and someone I really trust in the space of creation and connecting and sharing our story and speaking. And so Darryll is the co-founder of Seeding Greatness, a movement of leaders restoring the planet and helping humanity to heal through their stories and transformational services. As a former elite Division I athlete, Darryll overcame multiple suicide attempts to become a multiple best-selling author, including his latest book, The System of Self-Care, and a two-time TEDx speaker with more than 2 million views. His accolades as a top 100 athlete award-winning higher ed communications professional, number 9 suicide awareness speaker, and TEDx organizer attest to the impact of his work. He has coached hundreds of speakers to reach millions of people while growing themselves and their businesses at the same time. Darryll, welcome.
Let's go. I can't wait for this. This is going to be so good.
I'm so looking forward to our conversation. I will just say from the moment I met you, I felt magnetized toward you and toward everything that you share in the world and the way that you so transparently allow your own personal experiences to be the lens through which you teach us how to share our own stories. And so I really want to just give you a few moments here to share with the listeners your origin story. I mean, where you were, where you came from, where you thought your life was going, what happened when it took a turn, and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, totally, totally. I love it. And I'll sort of put the lens of storytelling onto my origin story, because I think that for the listeners, if you have a story to share, if you feel like you have a message that can be beneficial to other people, I think it's good to know how you've been shaped your entire life, right? Like we always say, there's our learned experience and then there's our lived experience. Right. Our learned experiences, our credentials, our schooling, our certifications, our backgrounds. We're certified Nancy Levin coaches and all those things. Our lived experiences, the things that the hard knocks of life taught us. And what I learned is like the best communicators, the best influencers, the people that make the most impact in the world, they combine their lived and their learned experience in order to create the dynamicness that is them. And so for me, I grew up in a small town, Jackson, Michigan, and I was a bright, brilliant kid. My mother put me in accelerated learning classes, and I thought that I was going to be like one of the most popular people in the world because everyone liked me. That I was funny. I was super smart. Everyone cheated out my tests. I was an all-A student with perfect attendance. And one day I'm walking back from a bathroom break and I get made fun of by these Black students for what they said, talking and acting white. And it created an insecurity in me that who I was authentically wasn't enough to be liked or loved by other people. And so I started to cage my life. I started to become a different version of myself that I felt would gain me like, love, acceptance, specifically from the African American community. And it worked. They embraced me. I got street cred. I went from being an all-A student with perfect attendance to by the time I was in the 7th grade, I was skipping school, selling drugs, having sex with women, getting in fights, and just living a very misaligned life. And that sort of kept up all the way through college. Compound that with the fact that I was becoming a really great athlete. And so I noticed that, man, people didn't care if I talked Black or talked white. They didn't care if I listened to rap music or listened to country. They just were connected to the fact that I was playing with some of the best athletes in the US and was, Michael Jordan's son and Brandon Jennings and Draymond Green. And, I can just name drop all day of the, caliber of athletes that I played with and against. And so I sort of clung to that identity as an athlete as like, oh man, this is how I gain love. This is how I gain acceptance. And so it was this big mask of I'm a street thug. People like and love me for that. I am an athlete. People like and love me for that. But who I am authentically on the inside is buried. So the more that they accepted this false version of me, the more rejected the real version of me felt the entire time. Now, I'll take you deeper into my story a little bit, but I just want to pause and say, here's where one of my storytelling skills came into play. Because I had to study people
Mm-hmm.
so deeply to figure out what made them like me
Mm-hmm.
and mimicked that personality. I literally had to embody a whole nother persona in order to be received by other people. And one of the ways that that has formulated my gifts is that I'm able to insert myself into someone else's experiences and see what resonates in their world. You know, one of the biggest dangers that speakers make is that they talk too much and listen too little. We have one mouth and two ears for a reason. The best speakers aren't only great orators, they're the best listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that we can listen to the true day in the life of our audience that we want to speak to and inspire, the better that we can communicate things that connect with them and resonate with them. And so I developed this gift to be able to insert myself into other people's experience. So I'll finish the loop here of the story. I ended up playing Division One football at Central Michigan University. I was supposed to be one of the next best athletes to come out of the state of Michigan. I got hurt. Long story short, after a big opioid addiction and playing after a back surgery, I got kicked off the team and I attempted suicide multiple times and ended up in the psychiatric unit in Detroit, Michigan. And it was there that two things happened. Number one, I found faith in what I believe to be Christ. Number two, found out about self care. I did my first journal entry, did my first mindfulness exercise, literally had to color a picture without any distraction of noise or television. And I did all of these things. And I learned that there was this whole world on the inside that was available to me that I wasn't connecting with, that I had shut off from feeling. I was numbing myself to what I was feeling inside. And this psychiatric care facility taught me that, man, self care is connecting you to the world that's inside of you. And so, man, I left that place determined that I was going to do two things. Number one, I was going to follow my purpose and follow God and be all that I can be. And number two, I wasn't going to have a system of success without having a system of self care. Most high achievers have a system of success, Nancy, but they don't have a system of self care. And that's why I wrote that second book, to be able to empower them to do that.
I so appreciate your story. And for everyone listening, you can automatically see why Darryll and I resonate so much and why and how there is such a beautiful intersection here. I really want to point out a few things in what you shared. You really took the experience of being a chameleon.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able to leverage that experience into empathy.
Yeah.
And so that you, like you said, in studying everyone and who do I need to be for this person, you are also able to then propel it into what is going to be the message and the way to communicate this message for a specific group of people that's going to land most for them.
Totally.
So totally. I think that's a really important point and a really beautiful way to see a gift in what we tend to in looking back, I also have it, the whole thing of, packaging ourselves to be palatable to everyone else and, being that chameleon. And I resonate very much with what you shared. Yes, it's given me a deeper insight into different walks of life. So I really appreciate that point. The other point that I think is so essential is about the lived experience and the learned experience and the intersection of those. And then also, and I'd love to hear you speak more about this. I often say most of us do wait for a crisis before we make change. And and so, I have really been about, we need to rock our own foundation before it rocks us. And so really, what if the crisis point becomes the catalyst for opportunity? And in all of my crises have absolutely become the catalyst to the next opportunity. And I'd love to hear you share a little bit about that.
Man, I don't know why we wait to a crisis to do things that we already deep down inside know to do. I think it was Michael Beckwith who says that pain pushes until the vision pulls. And a lot of people are either running away from pain or just trying to avoid it altogether. Like it's a powerful moment in our lives when we realize our power to choose. If you think about creation and, most of creation operates just naturally. They don't have, like us as humans, the ability to choose and create their reality, like they just are. And we are the only species on the planet that have the ability to choose, to think, to consciously create. And so we can choose to be misaligned. We can choose to go in a different direction than our ultimate north light or our true purpose. We can make that choice. And most people have to have a wake up call before they do it. I don't think that that's, mandatory. I think people that listen to this podcast, I think that's a big part of why I speak. I'm sure it's a big part of why you do the same, is to give people that fork in the road to say, hey, listen, you can wait to the end of your life and be like, man, I wish I would have. Or you can make a conscious choice that I'm going to now. Well, for me, yeah, that moment in the psychiatric unit definitely forced me to change, gave me the opportunity to. But since then, I've chosen change. Like
Yeah.
I've intentionally sought out my barrier because I wanted to, everyone, I used to hear a bunch of speakers say that the richest place on earth is the graveyard because it's filled with all the buried dreams and ideas and plans that never got executed. And that really motivated me to make sure that that wasn't me. I didn't want to not have a book be released. I didn't want to not have a speech be expressed. And not only like things that were I was supposed to do, but because of my story, I just told you how suppressed I was. I didn't want to cage how I was wanted to be in life. Like I literally did a brand shoot this morning that I think is going to change. I took a video. I said, I think I just made history because I surveyed 100 of the top speaker websites, and all of them were like me on stage, me with the microphone, me with talking to the person in the hallway, me signing my book. And none of it was like a fully expressed, like, I mean, they might have a family photo, but I'm like, do you do anything for fun? Do you ride a motorcycle? Do you play basketball? Do you do anything but speak? And it's like, no, I want to be known as a speaker. And I'm like, yeah, me too, as a speaker who has a life. And so I was out in nature. I was playing with this rope. I'm on a basketball. Like I wanted it to be a full display of me because we're multidimensional beings. And I think that's going to be the trend moving forward for the next generation of leaders is those that are fully expressed are the ones that are going to be the most well received because people are going to receive from authenticity because of how information has become a commodity. That's a mouthful. Let me stop there.
It is, but I do think it's accurate. And I do think that, we are moving into a really different time where what worked in the past and the way that the old guard presented and were represented is no longer sticky for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%. And we can feel it. Like you can feel it when somebody's just up there and they're like, da 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 da, info, chat, 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 chat. And it's like, dude, I could have asked ChatGPT how to solve this problem and they could have gave me an answer. I'm listening because I'm trying to feel something. I'm listening because I want to find something that can only be caught and it can't be taught. And the only way that we can communicate things that are caught and not taught is by fully expressing all of who we are.
You're speaking my language. And so this to me sort of ties into the ways in which we as speakers really need to embrace our visibility. And I know that when I talk about visibility, it's not just about being seen. I talk about it as actually drawing attention to ourselves, to really owning the spotlight, to really owning our glow, drawing the attention toward us. And I would love to hear your perspective on your own experience with visibility.
I historically have had a challenge with visibility. Now there's a separation. It's not I in visibility and hate are one. It's I had a tendency to in the past. There's enough space and separation from the behavior, my identity, that now I can grow from it versus being stuck to it. One of the greatest threats to people's potential is who they think they are or who they think they are not. Okay. For me, historically, I despised visibility for two reasons. Number one, I was afraid to be rejected. I was afraid that if I'm fully expressed, I will be hurt. And I'm a feeler. I cannot unfeel. I'm pouring my heart out, trying to pour light into people. And they're like making fun of me or taking a clip and using it in the wrong way or misquoting me. And like, it's just, ugh, it's just, it hurts. It grieves me. It stings me because I truly do care. Like, people that say, they don't care what people think about you. I care what people think about me. I don't care if I'm their favorite person, I don't have that ego about it, but I want them to receive what I'm saying because I feel like it can help them. And so that's one reason. And then the other reason is, and similar, it's like how fickle people are. Like I learned this as an athlete. Like when we would win games on campus, oh my God, I could get free lunch, free dinner, free breakfast, free apparel. I could skip class. We were heroes. When we lost, we were on the front page of the student newspaper. They saw, and I could literally go from, he's the best athlete ever, he needs to be drafted first round, to he sucks, kick him off the team in a week. In a week. And oh my gosh, I did not want that because to me, the visibility comes with humanness. Like, you cannot, you can't make people perfect. They're going to be up and down and follow the wind, like you one day and hate you the next. And you just got to thick skin and know who you are so that that doesn't waver you. So historically, I would avoid it at all costs because I didn't want to experience any of those things I just mentioned.
Yeah. And, in that, there is a piece of what you alluded to earlier in terms of the self-care piece, because really self-care is self-connection. When you have the self-connection and you have a solid foundation within, what I often will say is that when we're fearing that judgment or criticism from the external, it really is a mirror to the criticism and judgment we're already doing a number on ourselves with. And so,
Yes.
the self-care, the
Yes.
self-connection, and that foundation with yourself, then I like to say there's no Velcro for the external judgment to stick to if I'm in right relationship with me. And I wonder.
So good. That's so good. That is so good. I'm so sorry. I'm just like, yes.
No, yeah. So I want to hear more about that shift in you around self-care. And listen, it is really incredible to see you and really championing self-care.
Yeah.
And the essential nature of it. And I would love to just hear more about the way that you approach it and the way that you share about it and the way that you see people shift around it.
Oh my God. Well, number one, just want to say thank you. I am going to steal the line that self-care is really self-connection.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think I've ever articulated it in that way, but that was so good.
Good. I'm so glad.
Yeah. And it's so clear and it's so what I've been saying, but just not in that way. And even the mirror part, and the reason why self-connection is important is because your external world is a mirror of your internal world.
Right.
And so everything you're saying there is so true. And so for me, it was gradual, but there were moments and times where it was like, transformational. Like to me, transformation is when you take decades and in days collapse time, right? Like this is why mentorship is powerful. This is why people going through your programs are powerful, because it's like, man, they're taking from decades of wisdom and now you're shortening their gap, shortening their growth, shortening the time frame in which they can become like you or better than you because of the information, the way that you facilitate the environment. And so I have a combination of both that resulted in the shifts for me. One, it was very gradual. It's 10 years, right? Overnight success started 10 years ago.
Right.
And it's going to counseling when I didn't feel like it. Mirror work was big for me. I would look into the mirror and originally I couldn't look at my own reflection, Nancy, for more than like 5-10 seconds. because every time I looked in the mirror, all I saw was what was wrong with me. I saw the bad choices I made. I saw the pain I was feeling. I saw the regrets I had. I saw the facial features that I didn't like about myself, the gap in my teeth that used to get made fun of by kids who tried to kick paper footballs through it, the color of my skin that whenever the lights would go off and we would watch Bill Nye the Science Guy, they would say, "Where did Darryll go? All we can see is his teeth and his eyes." And it's like that's all I would see when I looked in the mirror. And part of doing mirror work for me was like, hey, can I gaze into my own reflection until I see beyond the flaws and see the light, see the gifts, see the beauty, see the smile, see the joy, see who I really am. And man, it started with not even being able to do it for 5, 10 seconds. And I would just consistently come back, here and there and try it again and try it again and try it again. And now I might get emotional saying this. Oof, can look into the mirror and actually like me.
Mm.
I hated who I was, and now I love who I am. And that happened because I kept showing up to that mirror, even when I didn't like what I saw. And I think that's an important part to mention here because I think we can tell you to do all these things to grow yourself, to get your story into the world. And if you suck at it, and if it hurts, and if you don't have a exhilarating experience the first time, we usually go, well, it's not like they said mirror work would change me, but mirror work made me feel worse. Well, sometimes it has to feel worse before it feels better. You ever get back in shape? Don't it feel worse?
That's the truth.
It's no different. It's so true. You're out of breath. You can't. Your muscles are sore. Why? Because you haven't done it. You're new to it. Sometimes it's got to get worse before it gets better. Ever change your life financially? Oh man, you're used to spending every dollar that you make. Well, now you start budgeting, you start putting some of your savings and investing, and you feel restricted in your life. It feels worse, or it feels better. And you ever reconcile a conflict with your spouse or your significant other? It's like, oh man, here you go. It's tense. It's the pressure are high. The emotions are high. You're mad at the other person. You're angry. You're sweating. You're boiling with anger. And then you talk through the conflict, and now intimacy is on the other side of conflict resolution. It gets worse before it gets better. That's part of how it happened for me.
Yeah, there's something really potent in what you're sharing, also from the perspective of being a really powerful voice and advocate for mental health, sort of breaking the barriers of silence around, I would say, men of color and mental health and vulnerability. And knowing you are the first person to hug, you are the first person to cry, you are the first person you are a feeling human. And I imagine that transition into really letting yourself be in that part of that truth of who you are versus the toxic masculine part.
Yeah.
Especially I would imagine as an athlete, or ways in which you were trying to prove yourself to others. And then you were so primed to allow yourself to be stripped of all of that, to go within and to have the reinvention, to have the rebirth that you did.
So true. Well, I said it earlier on the podcast, but some of the greatest threats to our highest level of success is who we think we are, or who we think we are not. And one of the things I used to say a lot is that I'm not an emotional person. One of the things that I've heard a lot of people say is that I'm not an emotional person. They really believe that they're not emotional, and it couldn't be anything further from the truth. So I do feel like there is a gift of empathy. There is a gift of like a spiritual like innate ability for some to feel at a deeper, wider, more complex level. But I feel like as human beings, we were wired to feel. We all had emotions.
Yeah.
But somehow over the course of our life, from parents telling us that we're supposed to be seen and not heard, from the way that the older generation used to raise their children with more force than flow, from a society that sort of pumped up these hyper masculine people that, take a licking and keep on ticking. Somehow we taught ourselves that emotions weren't cool, weren't going to get us popularity or respect. And I do believe that that paradigm is on its way out fast. I think people that can't feel an emotion are becoming really irrelevant. The leader who has all the answers and doesn't have any vulnerability or weakness is like becoming a rareness right now. And we are seeing a shift in terms of people valuing emotional intelligence, the ability to discern emotions, but also the ability to emote and express them as leaders. And so, man, for me, that's such a big, banner because I see humanity struggle with that. And yeah, especially men of color.
Mm. One of the things you do is you train speakers how to essentially, we could say, turn their wounds into wisdom on stage. You've helped so many people shape their pain into powerful speaking engagements, opportunities. And what would you say is the most important lesson someone needs to learn before they can speak? As I often like to say, they can speak from their scars and not be in their wound.
Hmm. That's a great way to put it. I so agree. Um, number one, oh, there's so much I could say here. Number one, realize that vulnerability has a spectrum. We think that vulnerability means share your deepest, darkest secret, cry, unravel on stage. That is not what the word vulnerability means. The word vulnerability means to be open. Hmm.
Yeah.
To be open. And when you're open to pain, you're open to joy, you're open to standing ovation, you're open to getting rushed and brushed off the stage. You're open to it all. You're open to criticism, you're open to praise. And that's what people are afraid of when it comes to vulnerability. They're afraid to be open. Now, the spectrum of vulnerability I describe is pain, power, trauma to truth. It takes just as much openness and strength as it does to communicate one's pain as it does to stand in one's power. It takes just as much openness and courage to communicate one's trauma as it does to stand in one's truth. So when I open up and I talk about me attempting suicide, people say, "Oh, that's so vulnerable. That's so vulnerable." And I agree, it is. But it's just as vulnerable when I stood in front of a group of African Americans for Black History Month and I said, "Hey, in order for us to actually break the chains of slavery, we have to stop living like we're still slaves." Now that was vulnerable. They could have kicked me out. And
Yeah.
some people were in the back looking very upset about that remark, but it required the same openness. Now, I made that point because when we talk about communicating from our scars, not our wounds, we're talking about being open to all degrees. Okay. And I think it's important for people to know that maybe if you struggle with talking about your trauma, maybe you can grow in talking about your truth. And maybe that's easier for you to tackle. And that openness will give you more freedom to talk about your pain or your trauma. Okay. So for some people, depending on their personality and their temperament, I'll lean them towards whatever direction that's has the most ease to it. Not easy,
Yep.
but the most ease. So if it's like, oh, this thing that happened to me, my divorce, my childhood trauma, my parents that abused me, my girlfriend that left me, if they're like, nope, don't go over there. I'm like, okay, what about what you strongly believe in? What's happening in your industry that you're frustrated at seeing that you're not actually speaking up about? Then it's like, well, I'll tell you. No, 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 no. I say, okay, cool, start there. Yeah, let that rip. Let that go. Come on, give us some of that. And from doing that, now they've got more openness. Then it's like, oh, now talk about your trauma. And they're like, okay, sure. They got used to being open and it was easier for them to stay this side of the spectrum. So I would say for people like play with like there's no right or wrong in that. Just find where there's ease for you on that spectrum and practice being open because vulnerability is not just sharing your darkest trauma, it's also standing in your deepest truth. And you do that through the openness of you.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So as you look at, the movement you're building and
Yeah.
really where you are shifting in your own growth and evolution, as well as the way that you are training others. What's the legacy you are longing to leave behind?
Wow, man. It's so funny. I got asked this question in Vegas on David Meltzer's office hours show for the first time. And this is the second time I've been asked.
Okay.
But I'm like taking that as like my invitation to lean deeper into the future of my legacy. Let me preface the statement of just speaking to legacy for a second, because I remember Michael Hyatt 9, 10 years ago had his coaching program had me write a eulogy. That somebody would read at my funeral about me. And I remember everything that I wrote in that eulogy, and I had my wife be the person that would read it. I said, everything that I wrote there, in order for it to be true, I would have to live it today. In order for somebody to say all these amazing, wonderful things about the impact I made, the influence I had, the greatness, the way that I gave, the way that I loved, like I would have to live like that today and consistently the majority of the days of my life. And I think it's an important point to mention, because when people think legacy, they always think about how will I be remembered? And they're like, I want to be remembered for this. And I don't think they always translate it to their daily actions. And so for me, that was a big shifter in my mentality of like, oh, I want to build something that I can be remembered for. So I want to live in a way today, in a way that would be remembered. And so for me, I want to be known for how I love and for how I give, period. That's it. I want people to be like, he loved deeply, he gave generously. In the realm of speaking and thought leadership, I believe that I am going to pioneer the next generation of spiritual communicators. I actually believe I got a download that 2/3 of the world were going to be influenced by speakers that I train. And so I feel like the future legacy of the word is helping people to understand that the most powerful communicators aren't the best orators. They're the most available vessels for the divine to flow through. And in order for you to be a available, useful, special vessel, you have to have deep self-connection, and you have to have emotional, mental, spiritual capacity. Okay? What we eat and put in our body, healthy, organic, high vibrational foods, is going to be a mandatory thing for communicators of the future. Because how can I feel the sensitivities of how the divine's trying to communicate through me if I'm suppressing it with cheeseburgers and French fries? I think that's going to be a big part of the work. Our emotional capacity. Man, if we're always constantly overwhelmed, if we don't have space to connect and expand, if we don't have time in nature, if we don't have self-reflecting solitude, how can we know ourselves enough to when our truth is looking to emerge from our hearts? So I believe that that is the future of my own development. And that is also the future of the legacy that I'm supposed to share with others.
Darryll, thank you. Thank you so much. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to bring you back, and we are going to do a deep dive on speaking. And I feel really grateful to have had this, this heart connection time with you here. And for everything you've shared.
Thank you. And I appreciate you and how you show. And I can't wait to have you on our Seeding Greatness podcast, because I love your vernacular around the inner work. I think you have such great ability to articulate with words the intangible and the abstract. And that is a gift, my friend. And I know one that did not come easy. So I can't wait to have you on as well.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. So for everyone listening, where is the best place for them to find you, connect with you, follow you? Yeah.
Man, all places. Stinson Speaks on all social platforms, and then DarrylStinson.com on my website. Just hit me up. I'm Googleable.
Great. I'm Googleable. Indeed, you are, my friend. All right. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the next time that we reconnect. And for everyone listening, we'll be back again together next week.